Hello everyone, Slava Ukrainia, and happy Ukrainian Independence Day. The 24th of August is a special day for our friends in Kyiv, and to celebrate it, we have some truly excellent news. The day just got better. Yevgeny Prigozhin and Wagner's senior leadership, including the infamous neo-Nazi Dmitry Utkin, have met their demise. They have been shot down in their private jet near the city of Tver, northwest of Moscow, by a Russian missile system from the Moscow region's air defense network. Now, of course, that's not what the Kremlin is going to report, but the video evidence we have shows the clear remnants of an explosion, followed by an aircraft missing its port wing and part of its tail section while trailing vapor. And if that isn't a clear, deliberate shootdown, I don't know what is. But even if we gave the Russians the benefit of the doubt, something which we never really do on this channel, but even if we did, given the people on board, I think we can safely rule out an accident while making an educated guess at the culprit. You gotta hand it to Putin, at least in this case. He really did give old Pringles man the longest drop of them all. I think the record previously was that guy in a Moscow hotel, I think it was, who got pushed out of the 7th story window. At least I think it was the 7th story window. Well, now the record stands at around 27,000 feet AGL, which is really gonna take some beating. I mean, homie fell faster and further than the ruble, which is a feat in of itself. Now, given my last video was about Wagner, I remember mentioning in it that Prigozhin was most likely going to meet with an accident and that Putin was going to need to reassert dominance or else he's going to look weak. And, well, forgive me, but I have a clip just for this.
Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone.
Do what?
Because I f***ing called it!
Anyway, while all this has been going on, I actually have had an air war video currently in the works, as well as a discussion about appropriations on the F-18. Given that's all going on and this has just happened now, I thought we should go over what we know about this incident. Earlier today, or yesterday, depending on when this video goes up, the Embraer 135J Legacy 600 aircraft, registration RA02795, departed Sheremetyevo International Airport, Moscow at 1500 UTC. 11 minutes after takeoff, while flying northwest at a heading of 306 degrees, the aircraft was struck by 2 surface-to-air missiles of unknown type, assumed to be fired by a unit in the Moscow Military District's air defense network. The reason for this assumption are twofold. First, the suspected culprit being Putin via the FSB, and second, the capability of engaging an aircraft at that altitude is beyond that of man-portable systems. Ergo, they would require an advanced surface-to-air missile system to destroy the target, which the FSB doesn't have. Therefore, they would have to borrow it from the Russian ground forces or the VKS. Eyewitness reports reported 2 distinct detonations, followed by the aircraft tumbling out of control. Closer analysis of the aircraft during its terminal descent shows the port wing having been severed entirely from the airframe, while the tail assembly is heavily damaged, including the complete destruction of the vertical stabilizer, along with all associated control surfaces, those being the rudder and the elevators in a T-tail configuration. The engines mounted to the tail assembly were both damaged by fragmentation from the missile, with one appearing to leave a vapor trail during the descent. However, that may be hydraulic fluid from the flight surface control system torn open by the loss of the wing. At approximately 1520 UTC, the aircraft impacted the ground, resulting in the complete destruction of the airframe, the ignition of all combustible materials, including fuel, electrics, and the interior, while causing the death of all 10 souls on board, chief among which being Yevgeny Prigozhin, owner of the Concorde Group and its associates, including Wagner PMC, and Dmitry Utkin, far-right hypernationalist neo-Nazi and founder of Wagner PMC. Both men having been responsible for the attempted coup against the Russian state earlier in the year. The complete list of casualties is on screen now, and aside from the crew, those names should be very familiar, as they are all senior leaders of Wagner PMC. On screen now is the footage of the crash site. The aircraft, as you can see, is completely destroyed, but the evidence is distinctly clear. In several images taken of the wreckage, you can clearly see holes and ruptures in the skin of the airframe angled inwards. This would not occur normally from explosive decompression or damage on impact, as any fragmentation would cause the rupture surfaces to be angled outwards. The only cause for damage like this would be debris striking the aircraft at high speed from the exterior, or in other words, a surface-to-air missile with a fragmentation warhead. This corresponds with the explosion plumes in the sky, the severing of the wing, and the vertical stabilizer. The T-tail section found away from the crash clearly shows damage that would only occur after being violently torn from the aircraft. Safety and maintenance records according to public sources and investigators were all in order for this particular aircraft, while the Type Embraer 135J Legacy 600 has an almost perfect safety record, with the only fatalities previously recorded being a mid-air collision caused by pilot error. And these fatalities were on the aircraft it collided with, not the Embraer itself. The Embraer survived the collision and made an emergency landing, saving the lives of everyone on board. This, in my opinion, obvious factors aside, completely rules out a mishap or an accident. This aircraft was shot down. There is no doubt about it. Now, on that topic, there is no conclusive evidence on what missile system was used to shoot it down. There is some debate about this. But, given the altitude of the aircraft, the area it was shot down in, the lack of a missile trail indicating a short or medium range weapon, which means there's no missile trail visible, meaning the weapon was fired from a long distance away, the warhead size, and the fragmentation damage, the circumstantial evidence points to an S-300 or S-400 system firing a 9M series missile at long range, most likely a 9M96E1, given the size of the warhead. However, it must be said that a MiG-31 or a flanker series of aircraft could have fired beyond visual range air-to-air weapons which could achieve similar results. That said, we have no evidence of VKS aerial activity in the area, and the quick succession of missile impacts suggests a ripple fire from a ground battery rather than an air-launched weapon. Not to mention the warhead size. It just doesn't look like an R-77 or an R-27. It just doesn't look like either of those. However, all of this is just a matter-of-fact reporting of events, how it went down and why. The real discussion is, of course, about the passengers killed in the incident. An incident which amounts to the decapitation via assassination of Wagner PMC in broad daylight. Decapitation via assassination. That sounds like a really good heavy metal song. I'll have to think about that later. I'll pitch it as a title. I mean, yeah. Anyway, no one, not even the Russian public, will buy the official line, whatever it ends up being. And unsurprisingly, the people least accepting of this situation are Wagner themselves. Future Pac-Man here, and Putin made a speech, and it is the most cynical piece of politics I have ever seen in my life. It is so ghoulish. I can't believe he has the audacity.
Авиационная катастрофа, то прежде всего хочу выразить слова искреннего соболезнования семьям всех погибших. Это всегда трагедия. И действительно, если там находились, вроде первичные данные говорят о том, что там находились и сотрудники компании «Вагнер», хотел бы отметить, что это люди, которые внесли существенный вклад в наше общее дело борьбы с неонацистским режимом в Украине. Мы об этом помним, знаем и не забудем. Пригожина я знал очень давно, с начала 90-х годов. Это был человек сложной судьбы, и ошибки у него были серьезные в жизни, и добивался он результатов нужных и для себя, и тогда, когда я его просил об этом для общего дела, как вот в эти последние месяцы. Он был талантливый человек, талантливый бизнесмен, работал не только у нас в стране и с результатом работал, но и за границей, в Африке в частности. Занимался там нефтью, газом, драгоценными металлами и камнями. Вот он вчера только, насколько мне стало известно, вернулся из Африки. Встречался здесь с некоторыми официальными лицами. Но что точно совершенно, мне об этом докладывал сегодня с утра руководитель Следственного комитета. Они начали уже предварительное расследование этого происшествия, и оно будет проведено в полном объеме и доведено до конца. Здесь нет никаких сомнений.
Their headquarters in St. Petersburg lit up their office in a crucifix. While public outpourings of grief have been seen all across Russia from Wagner veterans, erecting makeshift memorials with flowers and offerings. As expected, though, this is only one facet of their public response. The other is concentrated, unbridled rage. Reports are sketchy at this stage, but Wagner enclaves have started mobilizing for what they call the Second March for Justice. But as expected, it appears that Putin is ready for such an eventuality this time. He was rushed back to Moscow very publicly, his motorcade tearing through the city in bombastic style. Russian state media reported the crash, confirmed the deaths of Prigozhin and Utkin, and released an official statement within 15 minutes of the aircraft hitting the ground. That tells me they knew in advance. And once this was out to the public, the Rosgvardia in both Rostov and Belgorod were put on high alert for, quote, potential combat duty. While reports of troop buildups around Wagner encampments, along with GPS and communications jamming, have come in from both Russia and Belarus. Putin had to know that killing their leader would definitely trigger a response. Within the coming weeks, we will most likely start seeing a full-scale crackdown and elimination of any remaining Wagner units who don't bend the knee to Shoigu. However, this may not be the win Putin is hoping for. Prigozhin and Wagner, as we saw from their reception in Rostov during the coup and from various forms of social media, Telegram, VK and the like, Prigozhin and the PMC were, and still are, even in death, popular. While I don't think there will be an uprising from the general public, after the purges of popular members of the military like Surovikin, their failures on the battlefield, the failed coup attempt, and now you kill the hero of Bakhmut, Putin's biggest strength, besides his centralized authoritarian control, was, keyword was, his popularity. His approval ratings both domestically and internationally were very high, even in relatively unbiased polling data, especially among the younger demographic. The strongman image of flying fighter jets, hunting bears, talking tough at international summits, all while strengthening Russia's position on the world stage. Even now, here in the West, conservative and far-right movements in these Western countries tend towards supporting Putin and Russia against Ukraine based on that image and his reactionary social policies in the culture war. But all of that starts to degrade when you start killing war heroes. War heroes that you created. There's a reason Mustache Man gave Rommel a state funeral and publicly declared he died of wounds inflicted by an Allied air attack. Hell, even Stalin knew he couldn't get away with killing Zhukov after World War II, despite the political threat he posed. Now, Prigozhin is neither as competent or as popular as those two examples, but the principle is the same. Putin banked on his popularity. He banked on that strongman image. And now he's destroying it. Actively destroying it. Yet that isn't the biggest takeaway from all this. At least I don't think so. Putin is former KGB, a populist autocrat overseeing an advanced security state, which since the war started has been rigorously enforced. But even in these extreme times, the state apparatus has operated in sync. De-escalate, cajole, reassure, depoliticize. Everything is fine. We are winning. It's not a war. It's a special military operation. This person had an accident. This person got reassigned. The purges of the military have been practically bloodless, despite a coup. Something unheard of, even by global standards, even by Western standards, let alone Russian ones. Putin likes to keep things low-key. He likes to manipulate, scheme, undermine, and usurp. Now, he has very publicly and deliberately murdered the heroes of their one major victory in the war of Ukraine. People are getting killed. Troops are being called into the streets with alarming regularity. Things are going wrong. I mean, they're arresting 12-year-old girls, for heaven's sake. Putin is afraid. He's lashing out. He's doubling down to reinforce his position. He's acting tough. He's killing his political enemies. No longer is it just a game of cloak and dagger and thinly veiled threats of falling out windows. No, he shot a guy down in broad daylight. The most popular man in Russia, by some standards. If you check Telegram, anyway. This is a statement that pretenses are over. Putin is done playing. He is the dictator, and he will do what he wants and there is nothing anyone can do about it. Things in Russia are going to get a lot uglier. Uglier by Russian standards. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But you know what? I don't want to end on a downer because, let's be honest, Prigozhin getting killed by his own team? This is hilarious.